name is Gorazd Meško. I work at the University of Maribor, Slovenia. Our school is located in the capital of Slovenia, Ljubljana. That's something what usually causes trouble to people when we say that we are from the University of Maribor, and they think that we are located in Maribor, but we are located in the capital city of Ljubljana. And our school is the only faculty being located in the capital of Slovenia as a member of the Maribor University. Started doing criminological research in 1992. I had a mentor who sent me to prison to do research on criminal lifestyle and criminal careers of hardcore prisoners to learn about completely different perspectives. So I did research for the next 3 years. I wrote a book. It was my master thesis. And then I became motivated and I said, okay, this academic career is something what I would like to do, to have in my life. And I did research on policing and crime prevention and environmental crimes and local safety and security. And the last two projects somehow took me to rural perspectives. So the environmental crimes and local safety and security, because we compared urban and rural perspectives. I read all the time, but I also find to read fiction and sometimes short stories, and I also like watching documentaries and TV series and so on. I remember when I finished my second term as a dean of our school, I spent the next 2 months reading fiction books. Because I had to do too much of administration, and all I did or actually all I had done in the 8 years of my term, it was all about reading legislation, reading scientific papers and so on. And I needed a getaway. So I enjoyed the entire summer reading fiction. And recently I have read 2 incredibly interesting books. The first is The Wisdom of Old Dogs, and another one is The Wisdom of Wolves by Ellie Redinger, a German writer who spent a lot of time in the United States and in other places. And those stories are about animals, their perceptions, their perception and their ideas about love, life, devotion, and so on. And it was also interesting because the writer is actually a professional from a completely different field, and she wrote a book about those great animals and their characters and the people's experiences with them, especially her own experiences with the dogs and wolves. Regarding the TV series, I have recently watched the Dublin Murders. It's a police TV series. It's a very interesting one, and I often get addicted in no time. So I do this binge watching a lot. And it depends on the first episode of the series. If it sucks me in, so I'm with them till the end. So sometimes I start watching the series at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I have early dinner at 8 and late dinner at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then breakfast at 8 and 10 o'clock in the morning again, and then I finish watching it. So I love it, really. And it depends on the plot mainly, and yeah, so far so good. I have enjoyed many series. Music, so I'm not a fan of a specific genre of music, so I listen everything what sounds well to me, you know, from AC/DC to the Antwoord from South Africa, to Slavic folk music, a mix of ethno and pop and so on. Everything what improves my mood. So that's, I cannot say that I'm in love with specific kind of music, but when I hear a catchy tune, sometimes I cannot get rid of it for a day or a week or something. Yeah. So I have very fond memories of my childhood because I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, who lived in a beautiful village, and I still have a very romantic view on the rural. So, during my career, I worked as a community policing officer in a small village in the north of Slovenia, and I learned a lot, not just about the nature, but also about the people there, because it's completely different to work in a village as a police officer in comparison to working in a big city. So all these relations and relationships are more personal, and the police officers are not only people who control others, but it's a mutual process. So you have to keep a high level of integrity. You have to be honest and fair if you want to work there for a long time. So I learned a lot about rural community policing. I learned about social capital in these areas. I also learned a lot about farming and doing all kinds of rural businesses, because I'm originally I'm a city boy. Actually, I was born in Maribor, which is the second largest city in Slovenia. But I have always had this feeling to be somehow connected to the rural areas and rural people. My interest in rural criminology started when I did the first project on environmental crimes, because we learned that a lot of environmental crimes actually occur in the rural settings. And we also learned that a lot of organized crime and organized criminal activities have moved from the cities to the rural areas, especially in regard to Slovenia, because we have the Schengen border, which is the internal border of the economic union of the European Union, where is there no customs and so on. And it is related to migration, smuggling immigrants, refugees, and so on, and also other smuggling big businesses across the border. So this actually is what we learned during our study on environmental crimes. And I learned that green criminology is like a sister to rural criminology, because many topics actually overlap. And I think that both disciplines, actually both branches of criminology, can complement each other. Currently I'm conducting a project on local safety and security in rural and urban settings, and we do a comparative study in Slovenia. I'm heading a group of 14 researchers, and the Slovenian Research Agency is financing this project, which we started in 2019, and we are planning to complete it by 2024. So we have a lot of work to do in this field. Yeah. Magic wand. This is, yeah. I started watching the second round of series on The Witcher. You know this science fiction TV series. So they have some special powers, but I don't have any special powers. I'm just a researcher, and I'm quite ambitious when I do research, because I think that research should serve some some real goals, not just to do some theory. Theory is also always useful, it's always welcome, but I think that in addition to theory building, it's good to contribute to policy making and the improvement of the quality in practice, be it practice of the law enforcement agencies or the practice of, I would say, lay people in the field of crime prevention in this sense. So I think that when we do research on rural perspectives, we need to understand the dynamics of the rural settings and the nature of crime and disorder which actually happens there. English language is very, very attractive and good in coining terms. So it's good to learn about the root causes of the problems in the rural communities. And but it's very difficult to learn about it because there are so many latent variables which actually sometimes remain unexplored. But anyway, I think that it's important to study crime, to study disorder, to learn about the nature and extent of the problems. It's also important to learn how to build partnerships, how to cooperate actually with the state agencies, civil society organizations, and from my point of view as a researcher. So I think we need to learn a proper language to communicate, because if you come from the city as a researcher, the first problem usually is that they do not trust you completely, because you're not a village person, you're not a rural person, and they usually say that you're a clever one who is going to tell them what they should do, but then you will leave them and not come back again. So I think that it's necessary to establish a sort of a research practice, civil society sustainability, you know, in those processes. And I think it's good to if you do a project on crime and disorder, it's good to have a follow-up and good continuation of cooperation. In addition to this, I think it's very good to do victimological surveys, because we usually rely on the police data, which are incomplete, and they depend on the willingness of people to report crimes and disorder and other incidents. And I think that victimological perspectives are incredibly important. So it's about people's experiences with crime, deviance, with law enforcement agencies, their willingness to report crime, and so on. And I think it's vital to learn about these perspectives. So what would I focus on if I would have a position of power, if I would be a, prime minister or minister of the interior or justice, or I don't know, one of those important people? I would primarily focus on environmental crimes in the rural settings, but I wouldn't forget about other crimes, such property and violent crimes, because it's all about the quality of people's lives. And why environmental crimes? Because it's not just about people, it's about the nature itself, it's about animals, and other living beings. And of course, it's about us, it's about, if you take a look at the United Nations sustainability goals, you can find many ideas there how to create, actually contribute to sustainability on the global level. So this is actually what I would do from my perspective. But as a researcher, I can contribute, if possible, as high quality as possible information for the policymakers and the people who make decisions about our present and future. And why also environmental crimes? Once again, it's about consumer protection, it's about health issues, and once again, it's about the quality of life. And again, if I had this magic wand, it always reminds me on the Harry Potter, you know. Okay, so so as a researcher, I would say we need maybe I can use this as a magic wand, yeah, a pen, yeah. As a researcher, I would say more research, because I know I have learned during my career that we have a very small number of follow-up research, and research is usually sporadic. Yeah, we do it from time to time. We do different kinds of research, different perspectives, different approaches, and so on. I think it's good to have some sort of long-term follow-up research on rural criminality and problems of the rural. From the perspective of legislation, I think that we have quite good legislation in many countries, but the main problem is implementation of the legislation. It's about the quality of social control agents, law enforcement agents, and so on. And for this purpose, I would actually use it again. I said, you need more high quality training, and we need people who are dedicated, people of high integrity, and people who are aware that environmental perspective really matters, and not just generally speaking, and in the perspective of rural criminology, they really matter in rural areas, because in the rural areas, we also are facing a lack of law enforcement officers and other state social control agents. So it's about education, it's about the number of people, and it's about not just number, but it's about high quality people who do their work in this field. And I would facilitate specialized training at universities, because it's about us, it's about our work. And I think after learning a lot about rural perspectives, environmental perspectives, I think we can develop educational programs at universities as well, like master's courses and also PhD programs to contribute to the growth of rural criminology.